Um, Good afternoon and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council this Tuesday, November 26th, 2024. I'm this year's chair of the Winnipeg Food Council, Jason Schreier, City Councilor for the Elmwood East Kildonan Ward. And we are joined today with Councillor Dobson, the Mayor's Designate, and Councillor for St. James. We have with us as well. I can do this? And we got Abigail Legaspi. We've got, is Asha here? No, we don't have Asha today. We've got Carly Manish, Dustin Hoft, and we've got Manas Banerjee. And that is it from the committee. Correct. And we have with us as well Brendan Harris, Senior Committee Clerk from the City Clerk's Department, as well as Nicole Carnegie, Council Clerk, who will be replacing Brendan soon. So we've got a nice transition meeting with two clerks. As well, we've got our two coordinators, Danny Powell and Busola Ajabola, both sustainability planners with Water and Waste Department. And as well, we've got Josh Benjamin taking us to the people, running our audiovisual today. I would like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory with the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the natural homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40, First Nation, in Treaty 3 territory. Clerk Harris, where do we go from here? So, that's right. Oh, excuse me. That's right. We saved the best for last, as a matter of fact. Our good vice chair is here today, Martina Gornick Marion, and thank you for being here in person today, Martina. And now that we've dealt with our current but outgoing vice chair of the Food Council, where do we go from here, Brendan?
Motion. So first off, we would need a motion to move to allow remote participation.
Yes, Councillor Dobson. Those in favor? Motion carries.
Minutes.
Thank you.
I move that the minutes of the meeting held on September 20th be taken as read and confirmed.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
At this point, we can move into the agenda. Number one is the report from the chairperson.
So I'll just give a brief oral report. Thanks everyone for being here. Big thing for me, I'm just going to mention it again because it's a big deal for us in Elmwood. Given one of the meetings we've had a few months ago, as suggested by Dustin Hoft, we had a meeting with the Climate Change Connection, and we are slowly but surely moving forward with what I call the train car. And so I'm purchasing a CCAN through local ward funds, a insulated CCAN, working with the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation as well, Leilani Esteban Villarba, the executive director. We've done a lot of research, we've done a lot of work. We've gone to Brandon to see what the John Howard Society does there, as presented by Jennifer McRae from the Climate Change Connection originally in her delegation here last summer. In fact, she came with us to Brandon. So we're slowly moving ahead. We'll be making our purchases soon. We're looking at our options. There's different kinds of insulated CCANs. There's ones that are just freezer, ones that are just refrigerator. And you can get one that's both or all three. You can have freezer, refrigeration, and room temperature. So we're looking at our options as well. These insulated CCANs are very state of the art, and you can almost operate them remotely from somewhere else with your phone and things like this, and get the data off your phone to see how the gauges are working and things like this. So we're looking forward to this. We've had another meeting with the Climate Change Connection. There's certainly some challenges in terms of getting our food from the majors, from the major supermarkets as well. On farmers I know, checking with them to be getting grain very cheaply, if not for free. And we're also going to be looking directly at the Manitoba Pork Association to see how they can help work with us as well. And so things are slowly moving along in Elmwood. We've got our place. We know it's a perfect setup. It's land rented by the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, a 20-year lease from Suncor, right on the corner of Henderson and Johnson. And there we have the space to put in fact two train cars if we need to, 40-foot long train cars, because we may very well advance to 2 train cars. And we're just going to keep on going. And the other thing is we are losing 3 members of the Winnipeg Food Council. This will be their last meeting. We do have to make, when do we have our next meeting will be in January with the new members, is it?
So it will be next year. Actually, we do have the proposed schedule of meetings for next year before us today. So as of right now, the proposed date is February 11th. And those names are to be approved by council at the
we're losing
meeting.
3 members as well. The role of vice chair is 1 year.
Correct.
All right. And I want to thank Martina for being on the committee all these times, including as vice chair of the committee. This year, I actually think you chaired a meeting this year.
I think I finished off one meeting for you. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. We keep working together. Thanks so much, Martina, for continuing to work with us at the Food Council. Also, I want to thank. We are losing Michaela Collarwood, and just want to thank Michaela for her time on the Food Council. Just fascinating, the people that end up coming through and being members of the Food Council, and just the different insights as well. We're losing Asha. Right. Yes, we're losing Asha Nelson as well. Just want to thank Asha for her time on the council, and I hope, like I do, sooner or later I meet up with former members. The Food Council. I'm just so grateful for the interconnection, what I've learned from these people and with these people. And I have to admit, I've learned more than I've acted on in terms of being a member of the Food Council. But I'm hoping, one day, sooner or later, this information and the connectivity comes into play. And as well, this is Abigail Legaspi's last meeting as well. She's the longest serving appointed member of the council. Abby, it's a pleasure to work with you. How long have you been on the council now? 5 years? Yeah, something like that. Abby, just a pleasure. And thanks for helping us make form on a consistent basis, and certainly look forward to seeing you in the future. As members of the Food Council, past, present, and future, cross paths. And ideally, keep working together as we deal with the challenges that this Food Council represents. Abby, thank you so much. Having said that, I move my report.
If you wanted to move it, we just need someone else in the chair, unless someone else was interested.
All right. Would anybody like to move my report?
Under that.
Manas moves report. Are those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Report from coordinators. Correct.
Okay, we have reached the end of the planting season for 2024 in terms of our small urban agriculture small grants program, and all those who received the grant are being asked to submit a report back. Danny will talk more about we'll have a brief summary about how the whole grant program went this year. And also, just as Councillor Schreier said, we're losing 3 members of the Winnipeg Food Council, but we've done the boards and commission process, and we're gaining 3 new members in 2025 as well. And so we completed the second half of the community garden visits. Abby, Danny, and I visited 4 locations during the summer for the second half. At the last meeting, we talked about the first time we went on the garden visit. So we completed it. We visited the Met School, Arocha, Canada, Naomi House, and ERCOM. And I just want to appreciate Abby for it was a very interesting visit because we try to cover 4 different locations in one day, and Abby was very supportive. So I just want to appreciate Abby for that. We were able to see different innovative ways the community used the funds. For example, at the med school, they had an hydroponic system they were putting together. I'm sure Danny has some lovely photos, which we would also include in our annual report. ERCOM used like different balcony floors within their buildings to plant a wide variety of crops. And so Danny also had the opportunity to visit Fort White Farms. Unfortunately, he was the only one who could go for that visit, but it was worth his while. We also met with the summer students at the solid waste department within the city to review the social media calendar for the rest of the year. So she put together different posts on our social media handles, which you can check at your leisure. We also had to include posts from the interim compost program for food waste because about 2 weeks ago, we celebrated 1 month of that program being launched within the city. And so there's a post just to remind people to take your waste, your compost, to the specified locations. If you want to know more about like where to drop your compost, if you check on the website, there should be a list of places that are accepting that compost waste. We also had one meeting with the Research and Policy Subcommittee and one meeting with the Communications and Development Subcommittee. From the last meeting till now, we've had one meeting from each subcommittee, and more information will be presented at the subcommittee report. For the Pro Bono Students Canada, we met with the Pro Bono Students Canada and Climate Connections just to discuss in specific details the project. And the Pro Bono students also shared their work plan for the work that they've been asked to do. And so that brings me to the end of my report.
Thank you, Busola. Yeah, there was a few tours this summer and fall. Yeah, I did get to a few. Obviously, there's so I missed Fort White, eh? Wow, that's a shame. But I did bring fellow councillor Ross Eady on one of the tours. When it came to that side of the north end Winnipeg to North Winnipeg to the edge of the city, on the north side. Thank you so much for your work on that as well, Busola. Any questions for Busola? Seeing none, would someone like to move the report? And Martina moves the report. Those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
So with that, we can move on to a report from the subcommittees.
Did you want me to start with the research and policy? Really, we don't have a lot to report this last time. We met once just last week on Thursday, and we spent a good portion of that time discussing and reviewing the 2024 Winnipeg Food Council annual work plan, mainly in preparation for the development of next year's. And there was lots of discussion with the members, and I would say that the subcommittee members strongly advocate for the ongoing work and commitment of the Winnipeg Food Council in the development of a food and agricultural strategy for the city of Winnipeg. We did talk briefly about the Pro Bono Students Canada project, and we were looking for additional subcommittee members to assist Danny and Busola and myself. And so Pazima has agreed to take on that role this year. And as we've already stated, we're losing 3 Winnipeg Food Council members, and all of which sat on our research and policy subcommittee. But we are really pleased to say that Asha Nelson will remain on the research and policy subcommittee as a non-council member. So we're really happy to have her valuable input going forward. And that's it for research and policy.
And you said that, Asha?
Asha.
Yeah.
That's great because the subcommittees can do that. We're allowed to have my understanding, sort of volunteers and we're allowed to have extra subcommittee members, and it's excellent when, especially when a former, member of the council board, maintains, with the subcommittee. That's great to hear. And I'm sorry, Martina, you talked about who is going to help you and our coordinators with the subcommittee?
Pausing the man, I believe is her last name. She's not on the Winnipeg Food Council, but she's one of our other, non-council members that sits on the subcommittee.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any further questions, from Martina? Seeing none, who would like to move this report?
Before we do that, do we have a report from the other subcommittee as well?
It's okay, I'll burn it. So the Development and Communications Subcommittee met as well. And we've talked a bit about sort of some of the challenges that we're facing, the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens grants process, as well as the development of a social media strategy. We've started a process for developing that strategy. It is not finished yet, that process. And the improvements and suggestions we'd like to make for the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens grants process, I'm formalizing those into a list and we'll be, I think, discussing those pretty soon. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Danny? Seeing none, who would like to move Dan's report? All right, Carly, those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
So number 4 is the appointment of a vice chairperson. Just for clarification, we are required under the terms of reference to go through the appointment of a vice chairperson after every organizational meeting of council.
And we just had our organizational meeting, and Sean Dobson is our new member from council. And it's great to work with Sean. In fact, for one of a major community garden that we're doing in my neighborhood, Sean Dobson, the carpenter that he is, he's going to come out next spring. He's been promising this for a while, but the project's being backed up. I'm sure we're going to be there next spring. So he's going to come out for moral support and a little more experience than most people have when it comes to something that is, well, he's a little overqualified, but when it comes to putting together the wooden community garden boxes.
I want them lined up.
Oh, you got to see this. It's an amazing plan. They're actually angled out, so they're not exactly rectangular, is my recollection. So the ones we're going to do in Elmwood Park, in Roxy Park, it's going to be some sort of curved or circled, and so they're one end is thinner than the other, but there's going to be quite the design. It's really something, and I'm putting a lot of councillor local ward funds into this. I'm like, yikes! But we're talking like 150,000, and that's not even finished. That's like the first 2 legs of this, something like that. But because it also includes a pavilion, like a shelter, they can use both in the sun and the rain kind of thing. So it's going to be beautiful. I'm ranting. Oh my goodness, they're so excited. Sean, anyway. That's why I love the food council. I mean, there's excellent things to be done, and Sean's going to come out and help us build some boxes. So right on. Thanks for that, Sean. In the meantime, I'm sorry, we're talking about the vice chair.
The vice chair, from what I understand,
Exactly.
Martina has.
Yeah, I can carry on that role for another year.
Okay. And that's great to know.
Unless somebody else wants it, I'm happy to. If there is somebody interested, absolutely, I can step down.
And thank you, Martina, for your work in that position, for your time on the committee and for your work in that position this year. And so it's my understanding Martina's willing to stand again for the position of vice chairperson. Are there any other nominations, or you can nominate yourself for sure, that are interested in the role of vice chair of the Food Council? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Any further nominations for vice chair of Food Council? All right, seeing none, it appears to me that Martina Gorin-Marian is acclaimed as vice chair of the Winnipeg Food Council for the 2nd year. Right on, Martina. Thank you very much, and good luck with that, because you'll be working with some subcommittees. So, thank you.
We will just need a mover for that.
Oh, excuse me. We need a, yes, right, we need a mover for that. Who would like to move that? Dustin? I don't even know who's gonna put his hand up. Anyway, right on. Dustin moves, a nomination of, Martina. And
Vice
those,
Chair.
pardon me,
As vice chair.
as vice chair. Those in favor? All right, motion carries. She is, I guess, acclaimed. Martina, congratulations, and thank you very much. Where do we go from here?
So item number 5 is the proposed 2025 schedule of meetings. We have Tuesday, February 11th, Friday, April 25th, Tuesday, June 3rd, Wednesday, September 17th, and Wednesday, November 19th, with the intention that the meetings would be held at noon in the council building.
All right, and so do we want to take a couple of minutes right now and digest this to see if we've got any issues? Because I have not done that yet. I would like to see. I mean, you know, Martina can always chair the meeting if I can't make it. My worry is just getting quorum, just in case anyone, if any of those dates are just terrible. Can I ask why some are on there's 2 on a Tuesday, 2 on a Wednesday, and 1 on a Friday?
They were mainly scheduled around the existing council schedule of meetings, as well as room events.
I've got nothing booked on those days.
Okay, and I will just check this out.
Manas has his hand up.
Oh, excuse me, Manas.
Yeah, I just want to know, I think once it's done, I think from the city we'll get that invitation for all of them, right? Like before, so that it will be on our calendar.
That's correct.
And I'm just, give me a second, it's
Yeah,
looking really good. Well, yeah, I guess you checked my schedule in that respect, because you're
Hello?
checking. So,
Yeah.
pardon me?
Comments?
He's with us now.
Okay, hey,
So, that's great. Schedule works for me. And if it doesn't, or whatever, we can handle it. So, I have no problems with it. Does anybody have any concerns with the schedule? All right, do we need a motion to,
We would.
to move, the schedule for the 2025 year calendar?
Schedule a meeting.
Martina has moved.
Martina has moved that. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the 2025 calendar? All right. Motion carries. All right, we've got a new year. And where do we go from here, Clerk Harris?
So up next is the Green Infrastructure and Urban Agriculture Update. Just for a point of reference, this is here because of an April 28th, 2022 council decision that included that annual verbal updates were provided to the Winnipeg Food Council in the 4th quarter.
All right, and how do we deal with that then in this case?
I will turn it over to the coordinators.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just start talking about it. For those who might be new to the process, the Winnipeg Food Council has an annual urban agriculture and community garden grant where
No, we're talking about the green
oh
infrastructure.
my God, I apologize. But that is also information. So the green infrastructure and urban agriculture, the project that is going on for the rehabilitation and the development of the green infrastructure in the north end of Winnipeg along Leela,
McGregor.
along McGregor, there is an inclusion there for green infrastructure, and particularly for community gardens along a portion of that. It has reached I apologize, I'm forgetting the word, the design phase. And we're expecting that will be completed by the end of 2025. And we are now at the point where a community group has to be found to kind of adopt that area. So that is potentially food council. A food council task is to find a community group that would be willing to adopt that area. The community garden boxes would be, it is part of the city's plan to provide those. The community garden, at the moment, there is no particular community group constraint on who that might be. It's sort of up to us to determine what that process might be to select that group. And hopefully from this, developing this process, this might be something that can inform future green infrastructure projects. At this point in time, our input would be who that community group would be, and then there can be some discussion about what the shape of that community garden could look like. But the dedicated design phase right now is the process we're in. So most of the scope of the work that can be done has already been determined. So that might be a discussion for this coming year. Would be how to reach out to community groups and recruit someone to take over that garden and work with them.
And that's a food council responsibility?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. We would be scheduling that as an agenda item? You said later on we would be dealing with that?
I think that would be an appropriate way to move forward.
Fair enough.
By the sounds of it, just as there would be sort of an agreement in place regarding running these, this would likely need to be a motion that would need to go up from food council. It wouldn't lie directly within our jurisdiction.
It would not lie.
We would need to go up to EPC.
All right.
Any agreement for the management of those community garden plots would not be between the food council and whatever that community group is. It would be similar to any other community garden agreement. So we would just be supporting the uptake of this as a part of the community garden stump of Winnipeg.
Any further discussion? John?
I have one question. It's off McGregor. Is that by the railroad tracks?
Yes.
So there are two projects. There's one by Lila and there's one by McGregor. So, but I think they link the CSO master.
Yes, I see them both. Okay,
Yes.
I'm good.
Dustin has his hand.
Oh, excuse me, Dustin?
Thanks. Excuse me if my daughter speaks up here, but I think I'd just like a bit more information on responsibilities and costs associated with establishment, knowing that there's always additional costs related to it that we would not want to pass on to anyone who takes over a community garden that's established. These costs can include upkeep, water infrastructure, additional logistics, and I would not want to put any additional cost responsibility when handing this over. So I need a bit more information on it first.
I think Dustin, the engineers did talk about some of the costs. If they can fall under the capital budget, the city would cover for that. And I think Patrick mentioned they were looking to see if they could install maybe a water system across the locations where those planter boxes will be placed. Anything that can be put in the capital budget will be accounted for under the city's budget. But obviously, we need more details in terms of any other costs that you think might. These are some of the reasons why we have to bring you here. Because if you're familiar with some of these organizations, you know some of those hidden costs, and we can take it back to them to ask, like, how are they going to account for those costs?
Right. And I would just like to make a recommendation that when we include irrigation into green infrastructure projects, that is gray infrastructure, it no longer is a green infrastructure project.
Sorry, Justin, before you go any further,
Yep.
you said if we add gray water,
So, there's green infrastructure, which would use things like rain gardens and bioswales and sort of capture natural runoff to use in the garden itself. Once we incorporate pipes and hook up to the water system, then it's no longer technically a green infrastructure project. So I just want to make note that in future designs, if we want to make it a fully pure green infrastructure project, that we would look to capture
So we've locked
now.
you.
Can you hear me okay?
now we can.
Yeah, we would just want to make sure that in future projects, from the beginning of the design phase, we're incorporating more green infrastructure into projects to establish food production, food spaces.
Lost you again.
I'll just leave it at that if you can't hear me.
It's okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Point well taken. I think I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's no longer defined as a green infrastructure if we're adding,
Water pipes.
yeah, we're adding pipes. Okay. Well, I wouldn't, that's not gray water, but I see what you're saying. Okay, all right, and of course, I just, for clarity, need to challenge your definition. Do we all have the same definition of a green, when we're no longer using, runoff and wet out barrels? How else did you explain it? We all know what you mean. So, but is that an officially commonly held term of reference?
I'm not certain, but I think it's fairly clear that we're talking about the difference between water that's managed from rainfall events
Yeah,
as opposed to treated water from the water main.
right. Okay.
And I can get some clarity on that for sure as well. See if there's a city definition that we can either influence or take a step from.
Right, so Dustin's taking this next level of it's treated water, it's gray water, but I mean, so, all right.
I think you were saying gray infrastructure versus
Gray.
green infrastructure,
Gray
not gray
infrastructure.
water. Yeah, I think
Okay,
that
all
was
right.
the distinction.
Thank you, that all makes sense to me now,
I think
gray
that's right.
infrastructure, not gray water, okay, that's good. That's what I needed, that's
Okay.
not a problem, all right, thank you. And point well taken, how does this change our vote today and the motion in terms of Dustin's observation?
So with respect to that, I would say, what's before us today is just the annual verbal update coming forward, as part of the original 2022 council decision, though. The public service was directed to include Winnipeg Food Council members in discussions on green infrastructure, project identification and design starting in April 2022. My reading of that would be Dustin's comments would be sort of, because you guys have been having those discussions, they could be taken by our coordinators and brought back to the department.
Absolutely.
All right,
All that's to say, the motion would be just to receive his information, noting that.
there's work to act on.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. On that basis, any further discussion? So now the motion would be to
Receive his
receive his information. Would anybody like to move that motion? Abby? Would you move that motion? Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Motion carries.
Number 7 is the committee feedback on the Roland Michener Arena feasibility study.
It's the what, sorry?
The committee feedback on Roland Michener Arena feasibility study.
Committee feedback.
For that, I will turn it over to the coordinators. This is related to the motion moved by Dustin Opt at the last meeting.
And can you remind us of the last motion?
So that motion was,
Because you can rarely stop a clerk. Watch this, stop this.
the last motion was to allow the members to provide comments related to the feasibility study to the coordinators. And for the coordinators to come back to this meeting and
Unfortunately,
bring those forward.
we didn't receive any feedback.
And I'm not surprised like that this happens kind of thing. This is a very and I'm gonna say it's an ambitious concept. And not the easiest thing for the city of Winnipeg, including those departments and members of the administration to deal with, and for us all, including myself, sort of, wrap our heads around kind of thing. So I mean, I'm not surprised that we can't move forward with this item at this time. So how on that basis, what should we do at this point, Brendan?
We could just remove to receive as information. Obviously, there are always these subcommittee meetings if there were further discussion that was desired. That
Okay.
could be always come back to the committee.
I'm going to say that to me, the most salient part discussion that we had was, I believe, last council meeting, when we was at a delegation we had talking about looking for a place for startup with proper infrastructure within the building, including ventilation. And I was thinking, I made the point that's exactly what it takes to get make this project feasible. Converting an old hockey arena into an indoor farmers market. But it would need greater partnership to make it viable for the city. That's my opinion, kind of thing. And I'm just going to mention that as well in terms of getting this off the ground. The only thing that could make it viable to me, as far as I would see, would be other businesses wanting to come in to partner up in terms of taking advantage of the infrastructure, including the ventilation system at the hockey arena. I don't want to be a party pooper, but I mean, if that isn't going to happen, I personally don't see the probability of moving ahead on this sort of having a high chance. And I don't mean to sort of say we shouldn't do it or whatever. I can just, it's not the easiest thing to do to put it's a lot of money to convert a hockey arena into a farmer's market kind of thing, because it's an old arena kind of thing. So there's a lot of other factors to be considered, which is not to say we should make use of old infrastructure like this and optimize it. It'd be wonderful to repurpose the hockey arena since it's not going to be a hockey arena again. Councilor Dawson.
I have one question. I haven't been to the Roland Mechner Arena. Does it have a sand floor or does that have a cement floor?
I believe it's a cement floor. Yeah, it's a cement floor. I was there.
That's what you're gonna do with it.
Fair enough. And I really do hope, Councillor White, as ambitious as it is, it's certainly not unrealistic to want to repurpose the building when it has certain virtues and characteristics to its infrastructure that are usable. So as surprising as it was for me to hear Councillor Wyatt's concept of turning the Roland Mechner Hockey Arena into an indoor farmers market, I really do hope that this piece of infrastructure is optimized one day, and then we'll see how that goes. Having said that, he started off an idea, and hopefully that'll stays afloat somehow, even if it is just with Councillor Wyatt, and see where he can pitch it. That's not to say this is over. I really don't know. I cannot predict the future. Having said that, this has been an interesting item on our plate for the last year, and I'll leave my comments at that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would someone like to move?
Motion to receive as information?
And what are the ramifications of that, Clerk Harris? It just is what it is.
It would just be to receive the report as information.
Okay, but there is no report though, right? There's
No.
okay.
It's a verbal report.
The verbal report is that there was no feedback received and anything further could be discussed at the subcommittee level.
All right. Thank you for the discussion. And Councillor Dobson moved
To receive the verbal report as information.
those in favor. Motion carries.
And number 8 is the summary of the 2024 Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens Small Grants.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have some pictures if
Just because wasn't provided those at the time of posting, we would just need a motion to suspend the rules to allow them to be considered.
Motion to suspend the rules to allow the pictures to be considered.
Allow the what?
Pictures.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
If you could forward those to me as well for the minute posting, that
All
would
those in favor.
Super.
All of those, oh, sorry, all those in favor, excuse me. Motion carries. Thanks, Sean.
Okay. Apologies about this. It should already be done. But a little frustrated, unfortunately. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble signing in here.
To the group, Teams.
This is Transit Advisory.
No,
This is
it's
not.
Winnipeg Food Council, but
Sorry.
it's a really interesting group. You might want to see.
Thank you. Sorry.
More fun here.
if you send it to your, do you have a
Sometimes
USB
it's
drive right now?
difficult.
I don't.
If you join the Zoom meeting, you can share your screen from there, actually.
That sounds great.
Okay. Maybe forward the Zoom link. Oh, you have the Zoom link on this too.
Yeah. Are our mics on?
Yes, they are.
If you could give me your email address, you might want to kill the mic for that though, but
Is it your city of Winnipeg?
yes.
Okay, I just sent you an email.
Sorry, everyone.
Which should we know that can stay at?
I'm
Brandon, send it to me.
I just need to know his email address and I
Here.
can.
I sent you the Zoom link. If you open the Zoom link, join the meeting, you can share your screen from there.
I'm also having trouble getting onto Outlook.
Okay. Let's look. Do we need to take a quick recess?
Just
Yeah.
We are going to take a short recess.
If that's,
We'll take a short recess. All right, the recess is over of the Winnipeg Food Council this Tuesday, November 26th. And we're back on report item number 8. Is that it? Clerk Harris?
That's correct.
Or, Clerk, is it Carnegie or Carnegie?
Either.
Okay. Or Carnegie, if you wanted to, or?
Yes, whatever. I answer to anything.
Fair enough.
okay, so at this time, we do have the presentation up and running.
perfect. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. So, as I said earlier on the wrong item, the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens Grants Program is an annual program we have where the Winnipeg Food Council takes in applications from community groups to help fund their community gardens. They can apply for funds up to $2,000, and we look at their applications and give it as much as we can to whoever we can. This year we had, I believe, 12 successful applicants, and we were able to reach, according to what they reported so far, over 1,200 people through the programming and through the food production that was involved. The main comments that we have gotten back so far, we're still waiting for one more report, but the main comments have been, as they were last year, that what is most important is the timely timely answers on whether or not folks have received money. This year, they weren't informed until June, and that was already well past sort of the beginning of the growing season. I think we're into our second heat wave by that point. And so there was a lot of community groups that kind of, where they went out on faith that they would probably get something. That is in fact all the pictures. So the main thing they would like is timeliness of a minimum of notification, but even better would be for there to be more money allowed to each community group, more community groups to be accepted, and then for that money to get to them earlier on in the year. Other things that have come out is they would also appreciate if the city would offer delivery of compost and soil. That's not a thing that's easy for smaller community groups to arrange on their own. If the city was able to, with one of our trucks, be able to make that delivery right to the site, that would be tremendously helpful. But other than that, they were, the overwhelming message is that without the funds that the Food Council has been able to distribute, these projects would have either not been able to go forward at all, or only been able to go forward in very, very small scale. So we have allowed, as I said, 1,200 people have been able to participate in these programs and in the gardens. That is, I think, a tremendous impact for the relatively small funds that the Food Council has to distribute. And I think that that's a feather in the cap of the Food Council, just that how big that impact is for what we've been able to give up. I think going forward, we'd also, well, as I said, we're probably going to need to have some discussions about streamlining the approvals process so that we can get that money out as fast as possible, while going through, of course, the regular checks and balances. Certainly it's also, I think, very helpful when the council members are able to get out and see those gardens and really hear those stories from the folks that are using the funds. I think that was one of the highlights, at least for me, for this year, was being able to see the impacts that we had. I know that there's two gardens that went through, I could only call them kind of emergency situations. And our funds were able to save the growing seasons for them. And I think that's a really impressive feat. So,
thanks, Danny. I just remember in our tour, it was in September, and Martina was there, Abby was there. People coming out of the quarantine. It felt like also there's people there. One fellow was, where was he from? Was he from Portugal? But the Azores, I think. And then one lady from the Caribbean. Yeah, and they're just. But they're coming out of the same field, but it meant the same to them. They're coming out of the same line, and it was just a beautiful scene where this is one of these shared aspects of humanity: food, growing your food, and they were very, I think it was just a wonderful scene. It was just one of those wonderful moments, and I saw there was a couple of photos there. Danny, thanks for showing Rossi. These was one of those photos as well, and great memories and time for being part of the Food Council and seeing some genuine, important manifestations of it. You could join these people. I mean, there's a certain element of just being in the earth. It's really good for you, and the science involved in being in the earth. Amongst the soil is we're learning more about that as the years go by. But it meant a lot to them. And let's face it, it really can be a real savings on the budget to make, grow your own food. So anyway, thank you for those tours as well. I just want to say that. Excellent tours. And different ones. Of course, the one in the North End. So was it Selkirk Avenue? a different concept. It was different. It was a function of the environment, of its urban environment, the challenges they have on Selkirk Avenue, and the community garden. There was an expression of that, and very heartening just to see how they made a community garden work and optimize for the people in that community in a way that was very sensitive, very focused, organized, and adaptable to the situation. And that was wonderful. So this excellent projects that we have a chance to see and be inspired by. Any further discussion? Does this, Danny, you talked about a few things and the grants. And I do know, does this play upon, last year we had a little bit of drama at budget time and as expressed by Dustin in terms of, we were dealing with a very small financial request out of the budget process. So these things happen, it's budget time and there's a lot at stake. We don't always know the stresses that different people at City Hall, what building here and there go through in terms of trying to make a budget work and present a budget that can be passed and presentable and maintain certain aspects of very highly important functionality. In the process, we asked for an increase, which was so small, justified. It is our obligation to go to EPC for these things. As my understanding, it was the proper process, but it was so astonishingly small request that they're not used to it at budget time. We were literally talking about a few $1,000s. So we had to make our case. I had, and Dustin did. Does what you said have any bearing on the next budget process and on our consideration for any further requests that this committee might make to the central budget process?
I think that like I said, the impact of this program is huge per dollar. The number of people that are affected by per dollar is really impressive. I see no reason why asking for more money would be inappropriate. I think we always have many more people applying for funds than we distribute. And we do have to, in some cases, we give less funds that are being asked for, just because we're limited in terms of what the funds that we can disperse are. So if you're asking, could we give out more money? We absolutely could. And if council saw fit to give more money to the Food Council to distribute, it would not be hard.
Bear in mind, at that process of which Dustin was a delegate in presenting our case for our very small request. What was it, $7,000, Dustin? Something like that? If you recall offhand.
I believe it was $5,000 to add to the Urban Agriculture Small Grants Program, and a much smaller request under $1,000 related to the food system snapshot. So, I mean,
almost 6,000.
Ultimately, we're successful, but not through the process that we anticipated. I think this is just speaking out of turn, but I think if we are making a request, I support it for an increase. But I think, based on the feedback we received as a delegate, I would recommend a much higher amount because, if we go back with a small amount, we're going to be getting the same response. But if we go back with a much larger amount, it would be astonishing to have, someone say that our request is too high when we should only be asking for little. So, I think we've kind of found our place here, and I'd like to see more recipients and higher amounts than 2,000 be provided as a maximum for the program.
So just part of that, after that meeting, actually during that meeting, in fact, just before that meeting that to which you spoke, I believe I was told by a couple of counselors, that's such a small amount, Jason, you know, why are you doing this? I said, that's the process. That is literally the food council process. We are humble. We got to think within our means, and we're not being ridiculous at all. We're being the opposite. We're going to be practical. But it is our process to go to that committee. We follow the process, and having said that, they both told me the same thing. You could get that money through the councilors' ward funds. So bear that in mind, Dustin. I'm kind of, I don't apply that to me because I'm putting in like this year so much money into food projects. Like my goodness. But having said that, you know, I mean, the food council, let's face it, there's no reason for the food. It has a good reputation amongst the councillors. They just couldn't digest the idea of asking for $6,000 through the central budgeting process when they can say the councillors will give that to you, that money to you. So just food for thought there, Dustin. Excuse the food council pun, but it's not the first time we've talked about this. I'm just reminding that we should maybe make an organized effort to approach the councillors in terms of when we can get more than 6,000. I mean, really, yeah.
So I'm just curious, what would be that process? Is that something that, you know, the food council would, you know, put a specific ask to all councillors for a certain amount of money and or, you know, what their wish is to fund? And I guess, would councillors want specific funds earmarked for their own wards, or what would that normally
I
look
think
like?
they would like it in their own ward.
Yeah.
And they really, that's their obligation. I wouldn't blame them at all.
No, exactly.
Having said that, if it's like just outside their ward or in the member, you know, maybe for something that's notable that actually people there that would be, and in which they would share the catchment. That's all that matters. It doesn't necessarily have to be within the boundary. If you can show to that counselor that it's in their catchment. As an example, Jeff Rawadi and I share a
board
community
members
center.
regardless of where, like, because it's close.
Yeah, so there will be a good portion of people in their ward that are close enough to it. Jeff Rawadi and I share a couple of community centers as an example. One's not in my ward, but I actually live in the catchment of that community center. And who am I to say, so I'll allocate funding to that community center, but it's not my ward, but it's certainly part of the catchment and it's exactly like that. But if we can make a pitch to that, we could start with Sean Thompson as an example, just saying. But I mean, Sean, the idea of a councillor being asked for funding, a little bit of LDR funds for some sort of
Certainly reasonable.
certainly reasonable. And every single councillor will say that, whether they're in a position to do so. But if you ask, I'll bet you this. If you ask them for $5,000 each, there's a good chance you get 5,000 from each of them. Just saying, there's a chance, and we could be making, well, 75,000 instead of 5,000 kind of thing. I'm not kidding. Look, I mean, I'm putting in $150,000 into a food. Oh no, I'm putting in $250,000 because one's just for that food project of the community garden, and then including the pavilion, like the roof and shelter to go along with this beautiful design. But I'm already I'm putting money into buying an insulated train car for that. So in terms of food projects, because of exactly as what the food council represents. I'm doing like over $250,000 this year kind of things, right?
I will just note as a point of clarification, just the way the discussion's going, the food council is unable to directly receive funds from councillors because that would be funding a city organization.
Yes, but we can work with a community organization, a local nonprofit, a local group that the city of Winnipeg recognizes, and then with them, because and then with them, assist them in making an application. It's essentially the same thing.
So from, I believe we discussed this last year as well, around at the end of the year. And so in our acceptance and rejection letters for the 2024 intake for the grant, we included references to the councillor funds as an opportunity for those community groups to approach councillors
To ask the councillors for
for
funding
those funds.
out of their LDR.
Okay, all right, so, and what happened with that?
Beyond, after that, it's sort of out of our hands because it's up to the community groups to approach you. As Brendan just said, the Food Council cannot approach you for those funds. It's just, that would be the city funding the city, which is not.
Right, but a local nonprofit can make the application, and we can, by virtue of our modus operandi, we can assist in that process. That would be our job, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
All right, so that makes total sense to me. Actually, I should have thought of that earlier, and it did occur to me somewhere in the back of my head. Didn't bother because I just know the intent of this is very, very feasible. The process, and thank you very much to our clerk and coordinator for explaining to us the importance of process. It completely matters what we can and cannot do. And what we can do, though, is encourage those nonprofits, whatever organizations, official organizations recognized by the city of Winnipeg. Heck, it can be the Lions Club, and that's a fact. The Lions Club can be the conduit for delivering funds to a group that wants to create a community garden. That's a fact. It can be the Kinsmen. I mean, it can be any official organization that has a modus of charity and funding and foundation work and things like that, as an example. So that part's easy. Just find your conduit, a good community organization that can work with us and people in the community to achieve those objectives that the Food Council represents, and whatever that money was for, for which Dustin went as a delegate. I have no more further to say on that. I don't want to waste anybody's time. This meeting's been going on for a while. And Dustin, excuse me.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments short. Just related to, I guess Martina asked the question I was going to ask, but I just want to be cautious that when we're talking about putting the responsibility of individual citizens to have to approach councillors for requests for award allowance to go towards food security. The Winnipeg Food Council was established to address these issues and be the representative. If we are not asking citizens to direct attention to us so that we can help them, then we're putting the burden of individual councillors to support food security rather than a collective effort of all Food Council and all of City Council to support the mandate of the Winnipeg Food Council. We want to force citizens into a better situation, not a more competitive situation.
Fair enough, Dustin. There's layers to that. It's going to take me a little bit of time to digest. And I guess in the end, I'm just saying that the councillors do have these budgets. It is conventional for any and all organizations, local organizations, to approach their city councillor to acquire some funding from these ward budgets. That's what they're for. There's different kinds. There's different pockets for them, including Land Dedication Reserve or Communities Fund, for which it's completely appropriate. And some councils already do provide funding to food projects and community garden projects. And so actually, Dustin, I'd like to have a conversation with you about that, just to see, how we accommodate your concerns in terms of the role of the Food Council, kind of thing, with methods that already exist within the council's budgets to make individual applications. And I hope that's okay with you. We should talk about this soon. Having said that, any further discussion?
I just have one point I want to mention. I think that also it's, when you talk about how, they want us, obviously support their own, catchment and everything. But I think it goes without saying there's going to be some areas of the city that are much more high demand of a community garden than others, So I think that that's something to consider too, that we don't, it's tough though, because you don't want to say, your money can only go to your area because it's, for the greater good of the city in general. But, for example, I live in Royalwood. We don't need necessarily a community garden here. We can all build ours in our backyard because we have the space. But, downtown core Winnipeg, they need that infrastructure. So I think it'll be a matter of really being mindful of the right counselor to support this and hopefully, you know, even ones that are in catchments that don't necessarily, you know, need the support, maybe they can see it as the greater good of the city that they would help want to support too. I hope that makes sense. But what I mean is not all areas need the support. There's obviously much more needy areas that really could use, you know. So I think we just want to be mindful that they know that. Does that make sense? You know?
Absolutely makes sense, Carly. And I guess the reason I put it that way is because every counselor is going to handle it differently, and I don't want to impinge or impugn on the decisions they make. They all have to make their own decisions, kind of thing. And some are going to give more to the food council, and some will have a more open mind in terms of where that allocation goes. That's all. And I don't in any way, shape, or form personally want to impugn my fellow counselors' decisions on their allocations and as specifically as it relates to food council projects. And that's why I said what I said. I'm just saying it's reasonable to expect that they have a sense of greater responsibility to their own ward. And that's why. But Carly, I don't mean what you actually said is it doesn't really, yeah, it's true too. I'm just trying to be diplomatic. You know.
Oh, and I completely agree with you. And that would make total sense for them to want to advocate for their area. I totally agree with you. I just want to make sure that we don't put all the onus on the counselors that are just in those core areas that really need the support and say, oh, this is all on you you're the only one, you know, not the only one, but you know what I mean? Just put all the weight on them to support. Hopefully, you know, we can kind of sell it as like a community or Winnipeg initiative to kind of get more well-rounded support, if that makes sense.
I think that's an excellent way to put it. I really do. I just don't want to predict how it's gonna go, but they'll get it. They'll know exactly what you're gonna be talking about. Sure. Point well taken to me. Thank you very much. Any further discussion as we Abishola?
I just want to say that another challenge or issue with the small grants program that hasn't been addressed is as Danny mentioned, is the fact that the grant money, because of the way the meetings are structured, those that were successful applicants didn't receive the funding on time. And I don't know if there's something we can do to work around that as against next year, because once the advertisement goes out, it takes, you know, we have to give it a particular number of time, and then we have to have another council meeting before we can release those funds. And that eats into planting season. And so I don't know if there's a way we can fix that.
In front, so you can plan.
Or we have a special meeting in which we just try to achieve quorum for 5 minutes.
As just a point, the budget process is going to be taking place earlier this year than last year, just because last year was the start of a new 4-year budget process. So the budget is scheduled to be adopted prior to our first meeting of 2025.
Okay.
Before February.
Correct.
Okay. That'll be very helpful.
That means, I guess we have to get the promotions for the small grants program out maybe earlier. Would that make sense? In order to see the interest or need, because then it would need to go.
Yeah, well, if it's as long as we have shortlisted before the second meeting, it should be fine.
Which is April 25th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the information about the grants program usually goes out around March.
Yeah.
But between March and the next April meeting, we should have shortlisted those who are successful.
Mm-hmm.
How late do you think we were last year?
Very late.
Okay, so given that, Brendan did say it's an earlier process. How much earlier do you think we're at?
Last year, I
Since there's-
believe we had approved those grants. Bear with me one.
And our approval of the grants was a function of the vote on council, or the council vote on the budget.
That was on June 19th.
Yeah, I thought it was June.
June 19th. And that was a function of the budget?
That was partially the budget. That was also partially the trustee by-election, which resulted in the rescheduling of the June Winnipeg Food Council meeting.
I do want to put it out there, the idea that, do we have the ability to call a special meeting? Do we need the permission from the mayor, or from, how can we call a special meeting?
Those can be done administratively, so it's
Fair enough.
for an ad hoc.
And I'm just gonna put it out there, if in case, sometimes it happens, sometimes, you know, the councilors need a standing policy, a community committee meeting just for 5 minutes to get something done.
We've done it.
And we've had like 5-minute meetings. And you just two or three counselors, I'm gonna be in this room, then during a recess, or Jeff Verwani and I go to that room. We've literally had a 3-minute meeting just to get something done. And if we can get a quorum on camera, kind of thing for a few minutes, one lunchtime, if we just to make sure. Worst thing to do is because of this waste the growing season, truly what a thing, that's something that's so time sensitive. So I'm just gonna put it out there to those members of the council, the idea that it just maybe it might take just a quick meeting just to get that through so we don't waste people's growing season. And I'll leave it at that in terms of just a suggestion if it takes. That's all. Anything further? Seeing none, are we coming to the end of the meeting?
We'll just do a motion to receive the verbal report as information.
Someone wants to move to accept the report as information. And Manas, fair enough. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And I guess that's the end of the meeting?
We would just need a motion to adjourn.
Fair enough. And before we do, I just want to thank Michaela, Asha, for being part of the Food Council. And I think once part of the Food Council, always part of the Food Council. And so Abby, thank you so much. Pleasure to work with you. We're gonna miss you. I really hope we see you again. Just like that. I'm always gonna remember you like that, but I really hope to see you somewhere at a conference, at a meeting, subcommittee, something like that. And I'm glad to know you and all of this discussion ideas that we've shared over the years. I hope it grows for you as it will for me. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a fun group. I love being part of the Food Council. I've grown a lot professionally. I've expanded my network. So I'll see you around. I'm at U of M. I'm part of the research policy group. Maybe I'm going to reach out to Danny one of these days, and maybe we'll be in touch in the future again. Thanks.
So you're part of the research policy group at U of M, but is that a part of
Center for Social Sciences Research?
Social Sciences Research?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Right on, Abby. Take care. Take care of the U of M for us. And actually, so I'd actually like to visit the U of M, the growing projects they have out there. Are you involved with them?
No, but I know Raymond, and he's one of the. You've met him in one of the tour. So he heads the community gardens there at the U of M too as well.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll see you at a tour at the U of M one day.
Maybe, yes, for sure.
Thank you so much, Abby. Would you like to move adjournment?
For sure, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Abigail moves adjournment, and we are in favor, Councillor Dobson?
Yes.
All right, motion, meeting adjourns. Thank you so much. Merci, Miigwech.